order. It is Tuesday, March 17, and the time is 12:30 p.m. A quorum is present. To members of the public, we thank you for taking the time to join us today. I want to welcome everyone to the Minnesota State Senate. We appreciate your interest and participation in the legislative process. This is your house. To ensure everyone can view, hear, and understand today's proceedings, we ask for your cooperation in maintaining decorum and civility throughout this hearing. For the safety, security, and comfort of all attendees, please note the following guidelines. As chair, I maintain control of these proceedings and establish the following expectations. Signs, placards, are not permitted in the hearing room. Verbal outbursts, shouting, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Applause or other audible demonstrations are not allowed. For safety reasons, everyone must be seated, or no standing, sitting, or pacing in walkways or aisles, and no standing or obstructing at your seat. If you require reasonable accommodation, please speak with our staff sergeant. Testifiers signed up in advance and have provided with a time limit for testimony. Please adhere to these limits or you may be cut off. The time limits are set so that we can keep the meeting on time. If these guidelines are not followed, I will provide one warning. After that, failure to comply may result in removal from the hearing room. Our goal is to conduct these proceedings efficiently while ensuring everyone the opportunity to observe and participate appropriately. And with that, we hand it off to you, Senator Rest, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This morning, or I guess it's afternoon, I'm bringing to the committee Senate File 3900, and I have two authors' amendments, if one of you would be so kind.
Senator Maye Quade moves the A4 amendment. All those, sorry, I will repeat that. Senator Maye Quade moves the A4 amendment as amended by the A5 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The A4 amendment as amended by the A5 amendment is adopted. Senator Rust.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to explain briefly how the bill was amended, and then I'll go through it section by section.
Certainly, Senator Rust.
So this bill provides us an opportunity to respond to the recommendations made by the Legislative Audit Commission. They are very familiar, I believe, with some of the members of your committee, including yourself, because as of right now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of us are members of the Legislative Audit Commission, and this bill was devised to reflect the recommendations that have come through to us with regard to a few sections of state law that the commission has noted almost time and time again. Some things are a bit unusual, but suggests some remedies for that. So to begin with, then, there's some technical changes, but at the bottom of, starting with section 1, there are penalties that are provided with regard to actions by employees that are subject to a criminal penalty if a public employee tampers with a report, deliberately makes a report inaccurate, the penalty will be caused to be charged with a felony. And that's in section 1, and what has happened there is deleting lines 121 after the period. So it's no longer saying they're subject to dismissal, they're subject to a criminal conduct penalty. The reason for that is when there was a report recently, the auditor discovered that not only were the records not up to date, but in the way in which they were recorded, that it was clear that they were backdated. And we were, on the Legislative Audit Commission, we were, I think, singularly outraged at that. And so we wanted to make it clear that employees may not do that, even if to begin with their intentions are honorable. So in section 2, we have the responsibilities of the commissioners, and there are 3 that are kind of mentioned in this bill: MMB, administration, and the Department of Revenue. But to make it clear that the MMB, with regard to the conduct of employees, has to regularly provide, and I'm looking at lines 2.6 and 7, regularly provide guidance to all executive agencies on how to implement Office of the OLA's recommendations related to internal controls. Performance audits often focus on how closely and accurately and purposely the employees abide by internal controls. It's sometimes an issue for a very small issue. It's an issue for small agencies for internal controls and separation of duties and things like that. So this section speaks to that, and the amendment for line 2.13 just adds the requirement that the commissioner provide that technical assistance, but as resources allow, and to designate that what's being looked at there will be related to internal controls, and that's part of the amendment as well. Then in section 3, the A there, which is 217 to 219, is deleted and replaced with the language on 1.7 through 1.10 with regard to the grant process and state procurement procedures. The in line 112 in the amendment modifies and has a new section C about what kind of payments are not included. And I actually don't know why this one is there, but apparently it is a very separate program, and it's section 290. And section 290 in our statutes is a section that deals with, it's Department of Revenue statute, and it deals with a sustainable forest resource management incentive. And so those payments are not to be part of this. They have their own, that part of the statutes has their own sections and so forth in terms of dealing with payment oversights. The going on, but not in the amendment, at the bottom of page 2, all state employees who are responsible for maintaining the inventories of capital and other assets of the state government must be held responsible for maintaining those records, and that training. So they need training. One of the things we have observed a lot at the Legislative Audit Commission is the lack of adequate training before employees become responsible for these activities. So we spell out the bottom of page 2 what that inventory training should look like. Then in section 5, we remove 2 items of discretionary powers in lines 3 and 3.4 and 3.17 and 3.18, and change them to duties. So it's the same language, but it's not discretionary. It is telling the commissioners what they must do. And so that carries over page 3 and page 4 and in those sections. And then there's some added language from the amendment that's added at page 4, line 18, that requires a focus on high-risk grant programs and grantees in the reviews that are being done. Then at the bottom of page 4 in section 7 now, we found, well, I guess it's not the same thing, but we found that in one of by which awards were granted, that process went through, a grant was made, and the employee resigned within the next few days and took a job with the grantee. And we found that a conflict of interest and something that we were highly objecting to. In section 8, we have a provision dealing with reporting to the commissioner in any grantee that's being investigated due to a credible allegation of fraud. On the bottom of page 5 is a requirement, because we found, the auditor found in a number of performance audits that agency staff were not doing on-site visits to grantees. They were either being ignored or certainly not happening. And so we are recommending that that a granting agency indeed must conduct an unannounced on-site and in-person site visit. We remove the word monitoring there for any grant that's over $50,000, and then annual unannounced on-site and over $250,000. So that becomes also a duty rather than something discretionary, unless lines 530 and 531, the granting agency sufficiently justifies why such a visit is not necessary. In section 10, grants management training, again, we really wanted to emphasize to the agencies that there shouldn't be unreasonable expectations of state employees that are involved in grants management if they haven't been trained. So we, in B, C, and D, in Section 10, are requiring that. And then what I had referred to before, in Section 11, we have a hiring limitation, which specifically forbids a grantee from hiring an individual to work with the grant if they were part of the granting process. And if the grantee, this is the group or whatever who is receiving the dollars from the grant, if that grantee violates the provision, the granting agency must immediately terminate the grant. We think that is the proper way to do that. Then in Section 12, also the commissioners of MMB and Revenue who are in charge of an agency who oversees balances owed to the state must again complete training developed by both MMB and the Department of Revenue to make sure that the records are accurate. In Section 13, we make a statement about and clarity about how collection efforts must be undertaken and reported. And then also involving the legislature itself, that MMB will then report to the chairs and ranking members of all legislative committees.
Senator Rest,
Yep.
And so we'll take it to committee member questions, and then would
Okay.
you be available, you or the testifier
I am
available to
actually
answer questions?
finished. That's the last section.
Okay.
And the other parts of the amendments are simply adding effective dates.
Thank you. Members, any questions or comments to the bill? I just want to thank the members of the Legislative Audit Commission for the work on this. Senator Coran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Rest, for bringing this bill forward. Members, it's really a collection of some high-level good governance processes that the legislative auditor has recommended over time. It covers grants, and unfortunately, we actually have to have a bill to define those areas of even better governance, which we thought we hired people to do so in all of the agencies and programs that we have. And so I'm happily support it. I think the legislative auditor does great work, and unfortunately we hear many agencies come through. And so while we appreciate you telling us about how we did our job, and we didn't meet the statutory requirements and the delivery of our services, so we're grateful for the work they do, and that this bill accommodates that. Now, we probably haven't had the conversation, I've had this in Health and Human Services because it's laden with the mentality of grants. A lot of this is grants, but the rest is kind of good governance. As it goes to grants, members, I think we have to really think about the grant process and why we use it. And so we need this in place until we migrate to a better process that serves the state of Minnesota better. Our grantees who actually, or not the grantees, companies who provide services we decide we need for the government, that the government should provide, and it should be provided at the highest level. And so we got to think about the mentality of grants. If it's a service we should provide, we should create the requirements for it, service level agreements and the expected outcomes, and then we should procure it through the standard procurement process where we have RFPs, the competitive process. And anybody who here lives on grants, don't be worried. Those companies will be better benefited because you can have longer contracting periods and more stability to hire and to have the most effective staff to meet the demands we put forth. In this case, Senator Rest's bill and the bill that's put forward, one of them is termination of a grant. In so many cases, these grants run, even when we discover many areas, it's difficult for them to just terminate the grant. In the regular procurement process, if you're not achieving it, we can replace you. And so you have all the corrective action tools built in. We need this as a good buffer until we work on a new methodology to figure out how we fund and who should deliver the services, and then in a manner which best meets the state's needs and is manageable and measurable, as well as provides the people who serve and actually deliver the government services for us can operate at the highest level. So I appreciate, I don't know what the path is, Mr. Chair, if it's being laid over.
We're sending it to judiciary.
Okay, so I would encourage a green vote. Thank you.
Senator Maye Quade, then Senator Matthews, then Senator Grzeszkowski, and Barr. Senator Matthews.
Nope, Senator Maye Quade.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you. Senator Rest, on your amendment on line 1.14, it looks like you have with a focus on high-risk grant programs and grantees. Is that defined in law somewhere?
Senator Rest.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Maye Quade, I am not aware of a specific definition, no.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
But
Senator Rest.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Maye Quade. The legislative auditor is here, and she may be able to be more responsive to that. And in the work that was done in developing this amendment with the Department of Administration, the Department of Revenue, and MMB, why that language was added to the amendment.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'd like to, even just a nod if there is a definition or there's not. Okay, so I would recommend defining this somewhere. I serve on Human Services. We do have definitions for high-risk programs there. I think some just clarification around that. I'm also looking on line 5.21. You've stricken, in your amendment, you struck the language of data created or shared under the requirement are classified. Can you talk a little bit about why we've stricken that language?
Let's see. I'm sorry, on the amendment, where is that?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On line 5.21, after the word closed, your amendment struck everything after the period.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Maye Quade, I'm looking for the language on the amendment, if you don't mind.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Maye Quade, I think
you,
it's
Mr. Chair.
1.16.
Correct.
1.16.
No, what line?
Senator Rest.
What line on the amendment?
1.16.
1.16.
Senator Rest.
I see. So that's where it's page 5, line 21, and I would ask chairs calling on the legislative auditor to describe the process by which this amendment came about and why it's needed.
To the testifier, please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, for the record, Judy Randall, Legislative Auditor. Thanks for hearing this bill. Senator Maye Quade, thank you for that question. That sentence was struck at the request of the Department of Administration. What happens is that investigation data is classified already in each agency. When an agency shares that information with the Department of Administration, that classification automatically travels with the data. So that original, not public classification will stick, and we didn't want to have conflicting data practice classifications. So it's still protected, it's just streamlined.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. That was very, very helpful. My last question could be for you, Senator Rest, or for your testifier. So I serve on both education committees. There are a lot of grants that go out from the Department of Education. Many of them, you would think schools. So yes, there's plenty of places to go in person, but some of them are for like grow your own. So it's a person's education or parents of students with disabilities, right? So it's not necessarily like you're going to a place where people are receiving this. Is that one of the exceptions you're thinking of, or is there more clarity that's needed? I just wouldn't want us to get into a place where maybe this doesn't apply and they think it does.
Senator Rest.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Maye Quade, I think that's a flexibility is allowed by an agency being able to declare why an on-site visit is either inappropriate or just simply can't be done. But otherwise, we would, at those two levels of grants that are being given, and one of them, I think, a $250,000 grant, they should have an on-site visit, and too often, or I shouldn't say too often, often enough to warrant the attention of a legislative auditor, they weren't done. So that's why that language is more appropriately describes why on-site visits are necessary, and perhaps the legislative auditor may also have comments about that. And with me too, for answer any questions, is the deputy from Department of Administration to answer any questions.
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And no, I appreciate it, Senator Russ. I think that's super helpful. And, one thing I'll say for the members of this committee, and I'll say to you as well, I think we have to be very diligent that we are demanding, because I agree, on-site unannounced visits are appropriate, necessary, needed. I sit on Human Services, we need it there too. We have to fund the agencies that are supposed to do this in order for them to provide that kind of oversight. And I feel like sometimes we get caught up in this thing where we're always trying to cut the administrative fee and then also demand that they do more administrative oversight. And so I think, I would love to see as this travels, maybe language around really making sure that that is protected in some of our funding and or named explicitly. If we're going to cut the administrative fee, we should name what we're cutting. And so I'll just name that, but I thank you for bringing the bill forward.
Sure, thank you.
Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Rest, for this bill. I think this is addressing some of the just outrageous headlines we had to read this last off session of behaviors that we should not ever see in the state of Minnesota. I was just astounded seeing some of these, falsifying documents and things that if you do that in the real world, you are fired and fired yesterday for that type of behavior. And we need to make that loud and clear. I do have a question, and maybe it's for council. I agree with where this bill is going, but I'm hoping I just am misreading this somewhere, but it looks like the bill on page 1 that's adding language about employees who knowingly submit documents are subject to dismissal is getting deleted in one of the amendments, and I'm just wondering where the language is that's piecemealing back together the dismissal and the criminal charges that could be subject in this bill.
Senator Matthews,
Chair.
maybe the legislative auditor might have an answer for that.
Yeah,
Senator Rest?
Well, we are deleting the notion of just mere dismissal. They have committed a crime, and it should go down as a felony. And I think there are procedures in place when people have committed felonies with regard to their duties as a state employee that would automatically almost bring about dismissal, obviously if they're convicted.
Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if maybe Ms. Randall could weigh in too, because I thought I was hearing during the off session that we didn't have adequate enforcement laws when this act happened, and we had to make sure it was covered moving forward. So kind of the same question to you as to how we're making it read that way in this bill.
Ms. Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Matthews, for the question. So 609.43 is already established in the criminal code and has penalties associated with it. The language where falsifying documents to OLA could have hooked in to that law was pretty vague, and I didn't think it read consistent with how we get information these days. And so the language that's being proposed to be added on lines 1.20 and 1.21 make it very clear that the information, that if you provide falsified information to the Office of the Legislative Auditor, you are now subject to the penalties that are already outlined in 609.43.
Senator Matthews.
Perfect. I think that answers what I was looking for. Appreciate that clarification.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to offer the A2 amendment.
Senator Drazkowski offers the A2 amendment. I think we will be passing out the amendment. Would you like to describe your amendment, Senator Drazkowski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, you and I spoke about this topic probably 6 months ago or 4 months ago or something like that when we were not in session, is dealing with the lottery. The lottery was cited by the legislative auditor in their audit of the lottery that was conducted back in November of 2024 around lost or stolen scratch game tickets. And the author of the bill, I did try to get this language before her and into her bill before the bill was introduced, but it was too late. It had already been introduced. I worked with the auditor on this language. Members, what is happening there is that the lottery was not following the administrative rules that were in rules already that said that that lost or stolen tickets are the responsibility of the retailer. And that's what it said in rules. The legislative auditor found that striking fact that they were not following those rules, and they, as a matter of fact, were refunding them, many of them, not all of them, for tickets that they claimed were lost or stolen. As an example, in the audit, 20 out of a random sample, 25 of 156 scratch games, 755 retailers reported a total of 39,667 lost or stolen tickets. And after the lottery then concluded its investigations, it declined to charge 387 retailers for a total of 22,915 of those tickets. So what happened subsequent to the audit being done, the agency actually being called out by the audit saying you're not following the rules that are in rules, right? You're not following your own rules, is that the agency went and attempted to, and actually was successful in amending their rules to match what was their procedure. Rather than amending their procedure to match the rules, they created new rules to say what they're doing is okay under the rules. And they were successful in doing that. What this amendment does is it actually writes it in statute and writes the original rules essentially in statute that says the retailer is responsible for lost, stolen, or missing tickets. I have talked to people who may have a much more knowledge of the intricate workings of the lottery, and am told that the lottery will deactivate and credit tickets to the retailer even when tickets have already been cashed. That's what I've been told. Mr. Chair, we don't have time to go through and interview the lottery today, and I want to be respectful of your time, but I think this amendment makes it clear that it's a responsibility of the retailer. You know, retailer, you've got insurance and other things that you do in your business model as you operate with lottery tickets. It's your responsibility. I don't think we want to create room for waste or fraud within this part of the lottery, and it'll make it very clear and clean, and I ask for your support of the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski, and we have chatted about it, but Senator Rest, this is your bill.
Sure.
Do you have any comments on that? Senator Rest.
No, I concur in the process that Senator Drazkowski talked about why this amendment or this language didn't get in the bill. I think it improves the bill, and I support it.
All right, with that, the chair's support. Members, any questions or comments on the bill? Senator Drazkowski, would you like to make the motion?
Oh, I did. I moved the A2 amendment. I'll make that motion later too.
Is it the A2 or A4? A2.
A2.
Senator Drazkowski moves the A2 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The A2 amendment is adopted. Senator Drazkowski, anything else? Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't want to belabor any of the points that were made earlier, but I did want to thank the author for the two glaring examples. I think the word I would have used when we had the falsified documents presented was flabbergasted.
Yes.
And I'm glad you addressed that and also addressed the unannounced visits. If you know somebody's coming ahead of time, you can do things that will cover any problems you may have. So I really appreciate those two provisions being included, and just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Senator Barr. With that, Senator Rest, any final comments?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. With that, Senator Maye Quade moves that Senate File 3900 be, as amended, be recommended to pass and referred to judiciary. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senate File 3900 is recommended to pass to judiciary. And with that, we have Senator Hoffman. And the first bill, Senate File 3899. Welcome to the State and Local Government Committees. Senator Hoffman, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. In front of you should be the A4 amendment. I need somebody to move that for me, please.
Senator Maye Quade moves the A4 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The A4 amendment is adopted. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. And I just wanted to point out the A4 amendment. If you notice, we had to do some corrections and got the commas and the dots and stuff in the right order there. So I'm honored to present Senate File 3899, which is a bill that renames the State Office Building after Melissa Hortman. Melissa was first elected in 2004, and she served with that distinction, gaining respect from her colleagues on both sides of the aisle for how she approached legislation. She served as the minority leader and the assistant majority leader before she was elected to serve as the Speaker of the House. She has been called the most consequential speaker in Minnesota's history. And that honor reflects her incredible legislative work, but it also reflects her approach to people. She built relationships with everybody, no matter where they were from or which party they belonged to. At a time when too many people let politics and partisanship get in the way, Melissa always focused on relationships and connection. While her legislative legacy is unmatched, we should also honor and strive to embrace her approach to relationship building, respect, and her commitment to people. She fought in a conference committee. She fought like nobody else could. And if you don't believe me, you can ask John Marty in 2013 when we were in conference committee talking about the solar standards in Minnesota. It was a first. We're the first state. And how she did that was absolutely, it's textbook. Renaming the state office building after Melissa Hortman would help all of us, legislators, citizens, lobbyists, remember that above all else, we are Minnesotans, and we work together to make our state better. So, Mr. Chair, with that, I give you Senate File 3899.
Thank you. With that, members, any questions or comments to the bill? Oh, sorry, we have a testifier, correct, Senator Hoffman?
Not aware of a testifier,
Okay.
but,
Yeah.
Oh my
go
God, I
ahead.
do have one. Yeah.
Please state your name for the record, and you may begin. And sorry, you did sign up ahead of time. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Jody Anderson Woolhepter. I am a Brooklyn Park resident and a forever proud constituent of Melissa Hortman. I may look like one person, but I actually represent 2,268 people who have signed on to the change.org petition my husband and I started in July as a grassroots effort to demonstrate public support for renaming the state office building in Melissa Hortman's honor. I believe you have copies of the petition with you. And just a note that the number on the front page has increased, like I mentioned, because people are pretty much signing up whenever they find out about this. This petition represents 38 states, Washington, D.C., and 6 other countries, but most of all, it represents Melissa's wide-ranging impact. Indeed, the petition illustrates the power of one person to transform countless lives. And conversely, each name on the petition represents countless private grieving moments and the unseen suffering across our state and beyond since June 14th. I cannot tell you the reasons compelling each person to sign, but I urge you to read each name, for each name is its own kind of bell, intoning a solemn call for remembrance. This is not about politics. This is about common humanity and the dignity of honoring our own. Melissa grew up in Minnesota, came home to Minnesota after college, raised her family here, and served as a stellar citizen and lawmaker for over 20 years. Adding Melissa's name to the office building where the work for the people will continue, work to which Melissa so tirelessly devoted her life, would be a fitting living memorial and a testament to the bipartisan spirit she exemplified even in her final vote. Additionally, in a country where fewer than 8% of public memorials are dedicated to women, Minnesota has an opportunity to stand up for an important female role model. Please understand the people of Minnesota expect a permanent dedication site to Speaker Emerita Hortman. While tributes like the Melissa Hortman Community Solar Garden Program are appreciated, a physical place to pause and reflect on Melissa's legacy is necessary for healing. An institutional loss requires the gravitas of an institutional memorial. Please also understand, not having a state-level memorial site would not be a neutral act. It would add more injury to so many people who loved Melissa, Mark, and Gilbert. We thank you for supporting SF 3899. Shakespeare might have written, "What's in a name?" But our answer is everything. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And members, questions or comments to the bill? Senator Hoffman, thank you for bringing this. Do you have any? Senator Maye Quade?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Senator Hoffman, for bringing the bill. And thank you so much for testifying so beautifully, not just about Melissa, but also about the importance of doing this. It has been awful. And I'm so glad we don't have to name a building after you, John. But we've lost Melissa, and we need to do this. We do need to do this. I think you said it beautifully. An institutional loss deserves an institutional memorial. So thank you for bringing this bill. Thank you for allowing me to sign on to it. And let's get this done.
Again, thank you, Senator Hoffman. Any final words?
I was okay until Maye Quade. I love you, Maye Quade. You are a great advocate in the work that you did when Melissa was in the House, and thank you and your husband for doing that. Melissa was my political kid sister, and she reminded me that every time she would throw the Senate under the bus, and she would look at me in a town hall and she would smirk, like, I got you, right? But it was a loving I got you, and it was never personalized, and she was somebody that I miss. I mean, I absolutely miss her. And the other bill I'm doing too, it's the same kind of, that person had, in my office on my wall is a picture my daughter had done that has David Tomasoni, Kari Dziedzic, and Melissa Hortman all standing over me. And I'll tell you a little bit about Kari afterwards, but Melissa Hortman clearly was who she was. And when we think about her, we do think about everything. So thank you for letting me bring this bill forward and the people behind why this should be done. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Senator Maye Quade moves Senate File 3899 as amended to recommend to pass and referred to finance. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senate File 3899 as amended is referred to finance. And Senator Hoffman, you have another bill, Senate File 4338. To your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. There's an A2 amendment in front of you, and I want you to pay particular attention to the commas and the periods in this one as well. I'm quoting a movie that, forget it. I was trying to, my wife's right, Senator Maye Quade. I'm not funny. Don't try to be funny, so you can.
Senator Hoffman, anything else?
Well, on the A2 just is in front of you.
All
Can
right.
I get somebody to move?
Senator
the
Maye
A2?
Quade moves the A2 amendment. You should have a copy of it in your packet. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The A2 amendment is adopted. Senator Hoffman.
Kari Dziedzic was elected in 2012. She served the community of Northeast Minneapolis, where she was born and raised. The Dziedzic name is still very prevalent there. Stories of her dad, Walt, stories of her sister, stories of her brothers, and her connection to David Tomassoni was absolutely beyond. But since her first day, she showed an incredible dedication. And I'll tell you this, no legislator worked as hard and no legislator knew as much on any issue as Kari Dziedzic. She was by far the smartest senator there, period. And she brought that same dedication when she was elected to serve as the majority leader in the Senate. She understood the issues that each member of this body cared for and cared deeply about. No matter what district you came from, she would even spend time. We one time spent 6 hours having lunch with the senator just to get to understand what the issues were that this senator was dealing with. That's the dedication that she had. Kari didn't let anything get in her way, and even when she was diagnosed with cancer that forced her to step down as leader, she didn't step down from fighting for the people of Minnesota. Even up until her final days when she was there, she was continually to work on, she was working on policies that would help Minnesotans live the lives with dignity. She was a rock, and that's another person I'm missing very much. And it would be an honor if we renamed this building after Kari Dziedzic, who, by the way, I'll never forget in a hearing on the Senate floor, she started, and it was in the top of her head, she started rattling off where funding was going in each part of somebody's Senate district. And, you could have dropped the microphone at that moment because Kari knew it. And so that would be an honor, you guys. So thank you for hearing this bill.
Members, any questions or comments to the bill? Senator Swedzinski, then Fateh.
Senator Hoffman, thank you for bringing both these bills to our attention. And don't ever stop trying to be funny.
Senator Fateh.
Thank you so much, Senator Hoffman, for bringing this bill. And as a Minneapolis delegation member that served with Leader Dziedzic, I'm really happy to see that we're going to honor her in this way. And the successes that we saw in 2023 would not have happened without the leadership of Kari Dziedzic, with the razor-thin majority we had with just one vote. And Senator Hoffman spoke about how she spent 6 hours with a senator. That senator was me. and she spent 6 hours on a Sunday afternoon with myself, Senator Hoffman, talking about some legislation that was at a standstill. And she could have easily told me that we just don't have the support, we cannot do this, but she made it happen. And I remember in that meeting, she was still really, really sick. She was physically sick, but mentally strong. And she wanted to keep pushing through. And she made it happen. We got her across the finish line. And so that's just one story. I know everyone else has countless stories. And so I'm really honored to be, I asked Senator Hoffman earlier today to sign on to this as well. And I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be included in this, and let's get this done.
All right, thank you. Senator Hoffman, any closing words?
David Tomassoni, who was one of the most outspoken senators in the history. I mean, David Tomassoni, who stopped Wayne Gretzky from getting a goal in the '84 Olympics. You could never, ever get his undivided attention. There was only one person ever in the history. When Kari Dziedzic would walk into his office, and I watched it multiple times, and she would start off with, "So, David," the whole room would went whoosh. and he would focus on her because she had something important to say. That's the kind of leader she was. That's the kind of leader that is absolutely missed, and that's the kind of leader I absolutely adored. So thank you, members.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further discussion, Senator Fateh moves Senate File 4338 to be recommended to pass as amended, to be recommended to pass and referred to finance. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senate File 4338 as amended is referred to finance. Thank you, Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
All right, and next up we have Senate File 4176, Senator Fateh. And looks like we have a couple of testifiers for this bill. Could the following testifiers make their way to the table? Tommy Zhang and Aaron Sepulveda.
I think we got a little more than a couple testifiers, Mr. Chair.
Oh, and Senator Fateh, to your bill, and I think you might have an amendment for us.
Yes. One moment, Mr. Chair.
Looks like it's the, for members, it looks like it's the A3 amendment in your packet.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And the A3 amendment does a few things. First, it adopts the sensitive location changes on schools and healthcare providers that were made on the standalone bills that are being carried by Senator Mann. It also changes some of the language around the Bivens Act that is also a separate standalone bill that myself and President Champion are carrying, so that it brings in an alignment with that. And then it removes the civil cause of action for violations of the Plyler. So those are the few things that it does for the, I believe, A3 amendment.
All right, thank you, Senator Fateh. Senator Fateh moves the A3 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The A3 amendment is adopted. Senator Fateh, you can start with the rest of your remarks, and I think we're hoping to try to keep it to the state gov relevant portions, as it's a very big bill. Senator Fateh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, for allowing this bill to be heard. The goal of this bill is to leave federal immigration enforcement up to the federal government and to ensure that Minnesota and local Minnesota governments are not involved in the process. The bill ensures that, to the extent possible, the state protects its residents, its institutions, and its governments from the abuses of the immigration process. So I'm going to go through some of the sections of the bill. First, in Section 1, Minnesota and its local governments should not be involved in the federal immigration process. We have seen that it has been ripe for abuse, and unlike the federal government, Minnesota and its taxpayers will be on the hook for the abuses that have been committed. Local cooperation with immigration enforcement hurts our community. It lessens community trust in our institutions, and it scares off witnesses from cooperating with law enforcement. We've seen that there's been documented racial profiling done by ICE. In fact, I think last week that WCCO reported that there has been at least a couple dozen instances in which people were targeted solely being racially profiled. And that affects more than just our immigrant communities. It affects communities who look like immigrants or generally people of color. This local law enforcement being involved distracts from real public safety and real public safety needs, which includes the investigative and detention space. And so for sections 2, 4, 5, and 6, these are sections that institute a state-level version of the sensitive locations that are also, as I mentioned earlier, being carried by Senator Mann, that are protections that the federal government had utilized for nearly 20 years. It prohibits immigration enforcement in sensitive locations like courtrooms, schools, healthcare facilities, and higher education. Section 3 creates a state-level civil cause of action against federal officials, and that's what I spoke about earlier as well, the legislation that Senator Champion, or President Champion and I are carrying, along with Representative Long on the House side. And Section 7 is a piece that codifies the decision in Plyler versus Doe that ensures public schools cannot discriminate against students on the basis of immigration status. Currently required by the Supreme Court, there's precedent, but there are institutions that are actively working to get the Supreme Court to overturn that decision. And so I'll cut it there, Mr. Chair, and I'll pass it off to our first testifier.
All right, Ms. Maye Quade, please state your name for the record and you may begin.
My name is Maye Quade, and I'm the Executive Network Director for the Coalition of Asian American Leaders. I'm a member of the North Star Coalition who's been working on this bill for the past several years. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee for allowing me to testify. I have to admit, I do not like testifying. And in particular, I don't like testifying on issues around immigration, mainly because it makes me very emotional. I've listened to a lot of committee hearings since this legislative session has started, and the comments from members have been very disheartening. So I'm gonna share why we support this bill, and you can listen to me or not. Some of you already aren't listening to me. So I wanna say that the Coalition of Asian American Leaders has 6,000 network leaders throughout the state of Minnesota, with the highest concentration here in the metro. We represent all Asian Americans from all different ethnic backgrounds. And in the state of Minnesota, there's close to 41 different ethnic groups. Since Operation Metro Surge, our organization has worked around the clock providing emergency legal triage support and other emergency responses for Minnesotans who have experienced interactions with federal agents. In greater Minnesota, here in the metro, first and second ring suburbs, you name the location, we have a resident who probably had a really bad experience with federal agents. This is really unfortunate because the Coalition of Asian American Leaders has been advocating for public safety since our inception in 2013, and we work really closely with our local law enforcement, building relationships with our residents so that they feel safe to connect with law enforcement. And that work has gone a long way. We've made a lot of progress, and I'm so grateful for our law enforcement and the work that they do. So I'm here today on behalf of the 6,000 members that we have to ask that the Minnesota legislature do these three things. One, allow our local law enforcement to ensure public safety and the rule of law by protecting our due process rights, by protecting the unconstitutionality of racial profiling, and to protect the clear boundaries between federal and state authority. It is the trust that we have with our local law enforcement that keeps all of us safe. When residents do not trust law enforcement, there is violence and chaos, and that means no one is safe. Your kids aren't safe, my kids aren't safe. No one is safe. So I ask that as you consider this bill and the protections that it will offer to all Minnesotans, regardless of legal status or racial, gender, religious background, that this bill reinforces the foundational principles of the American Constitution. So I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Aaron Sepulveda, and Mary Niedermeyer is next up. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Sepulveda. I have the honor of representing the Minnesota Council on Latino Affairs. Senator Zhang, thank you for considering this issue. Committee, thanks for taking this bill up. It's the mandate of MCLA to advise and inform the legislature on issues relevant to the Latino community. It is with that mandate and with information and data gathered directly from community members that we express support for the ideas presented in Senate File 4176. Nearly 50 years ago, MCLA was created from an understanding that negative experiences disproportionately borne by Latinos undermine our shared prosperity. But presently, aggressive immigration activity has eroded the trust many Latinos feel in public institutions and their sense of community belonging. That reality impedes our collective progress. These are not the opinions of MCLA board members or staff, but direct feedback we have received from Minnesota Latinos commensurate with our edict. Between August and November of last year, MCLA surveyed more than 250 of these community members. Among them, 45 described discrimination as an issue they're concerned about, and 36% described immigration. Both of these were among the three highest or most common concerns that we heard. That's more than for health insurance, housing, transportation, childcare, or employment. And to give you a sense of why these concerns were expressed, respondents also provided some loosely prompted quotes, which I'll reproduce here. A brief trigger warning that these do include some sensitive language. So the first one, if you're a trans and an immigrant, it's better to hide or kill yourself because the federal government is going to kill you. A second, this country wants to wipe us out because it does not like the idea of Hispanic population growth in the future. But we need somebody ready to fight and to instruct us what to do if the worst things happen here in Minnesota. Again, many of these responses were collected in August and September, months before federal immigration action intensified here. So we know how much more destabilized many Latinos feel now. Our labor market, our tax base, our systems of public health, to say nothing of our humanity and sense of community, are dependent on feelings of mutual trust. As we recover from the costs of immigration actions, how we respond has profound implications. As a final quote that I'll provide you all from our community members, inclusion helps to remove any barriers. Conversely, discrimination leads to losses in every sense. An unwelcoming environment only fuels problems of inequality and makes it more difficult to find solutions to any issue. Latino Minnesotans that we talk to want spaces where they feel neither their ethnicity nor their national origin impact their well-being. If one part of government is deteriorating trust in those spaces, let us double down on efforts to rebuild and reaffirm them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mary Niedermeyer, and next up on the list is Perla Ramos. Ms. Niedermeyer, please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Zhang and members of the committee. My name is Mary Niedermeyer. I'm the CEO of CAPI, which stands for Communities Advancing Prosperity for Immigrants. We're a nonprofit that has served immigrants and refugees in the Twin Cities since 1982. Over the past several months, I've spoken often with our city's chief of police about what our community has experienced during Operation Metro Surge. We both care deeply about public safety and ensuring that everyone can leave their homes, participate in daily life, and contribute to society without fear. At one point, I called him in tears and asked him, if you can't protect us, who can? That question is why I'm here today. And while CAPI has supported the STAR Act for quite some time, it was only recently, after seeing what our community has experienced firsthand, that I finally understood why these protections really matter. Several years ago, CAPI helped resettle Afghan evacuees who had supported U.S. efforts or were fleeing persecution and were encouraged by our government to rebuild their lives safely here in Minnesota. Today, many of those same families are being re-traumatized. One of our participants who had been granted asylum and had a lawful permanent resident case pending was taken from their home, flown to Texas, detained for more than a week before being released and forced to find their own way back to Minnesota. Another Afghan community member told us they had previously been kidnapped by the Taliban and that recent enforcement activity brought back those same fears. One woman told us, I keep trying to tell myself that it's better to be here than with the Taliban, but I'm scared to leave my house. At the same time, immigration enforcement vehicles have been regularly present in our food shelf parking lot. We have received threatening calls and messages, staff have been impersonated, and someone was even found recording outside of our building. The fear has been constant and our community is exhausted. The STAR Act helps provide clarity and accountability while still allowing law enforcement to do their jobs. It helps ensure that schools, hospitals, and courthouses remain safe and accessible because when people are afraid to seek help, it affects the safety and well-being of our entire state. For these reasons, CAPI strongly supports the STAR Act and respectfully urges each one of you to move this legislation forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Perla Ramos, and then next up we have Paula Cole. Ms. Ramos, please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Perla Ramos. I am a community organizer with Faith and Justice. We organize in Central Minnesota. And I thank you, Senator Jan, for letting me testify on behalf of my community member. And thank you, members of the committee. This testimony breaks my heart because this person is the greatest person that I ever met. We run free clinics for people without health care and then low income, and then that they just can't qualify for insurance. So he was key for my clinics every single month. He was helping me to run those clinics, and now he's not here. So on behalf of his wife, which I invite her to testify, but she is horrifying to even go outside and walk outside her house. She gave me permission to say this testimony, and I'll begin. I am writing this testimony with the heart in my hands. I want to share the detention and the deportation of my husband, who is a 77-year-old man, has deeply impacted me in my life and in our family. My husband was detained on January 10, approximately at 9:45 in the morning. They crossed the tree lines. They pulled him over. They pulled him out of the car with force, and they ripped off his seatbelt. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. My husband was detained for 43 days. Those days were filled with anguish, uncertainty, and fear. They used a lot of force to put him out of the car. He was bleeding. His hand was bleeding. He had no help. Each day, since that time, each day, I was there without not knowing what would happen. Every night, I tried to be strong for my children and my grandson. While inside, I feel devastated. It is not easy to explain what it feels like to live waiting for a phone call that never came, or it was not clear. My husband is not a criminal. He is a man who has never had problems with the law enforcement, not even a single ticket. He is a loving father and an exceptional husband. He had just started enjoying his grandson, who was only 1 month old in January. His only mistake was not having documents. During those 43 years, our family lived through an emotional roller coaster. Anxiety, sadness, and desperation, and a deep sense of injustice. This is injustice. My husband is not a criminal. His deportation affected our emotional peace. We are suffering from his absence, his hugs, his advice, and his daily presence. I am facing the pain of this forced separation from one day to the next. Our lives have changed abruptly. Deportation does not only move a person from country to country, it breaks apart families, it breaks apart homes that cannot be seen, but they feel every single day. I share my story with the hope that you can see that behind every immigration case, there is a real family with feelings, with children, and with dreams. We need your support, supporting this bill. We don't want any other family to be separated or pulled apart from their loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. We have Ms. Paula Cole and Dr. Karen Wills. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Senators, Chair Zhang. My name is Dr. Karen Wills. Ms. Paula Cole, unfortunately, was called away by a family emergency today and can't testify. She would have been speaking from Educators of Excellence to the protections in this bill for schools. We miss her for that. I am a pediatric psychologist. I taught at Loyola University in Chicago. I was on staff at Children's Hospital in Chicago. I was on staff here in Minnesota at the Mayo Clinic and at Children's Hospital. I'm now blissfully retired. But speaking to some of the provisions of the hospital bill very briefly, we are very pleased to be incorporating into our bill the beautiful work of Dr. Alice Mann, your fellow senator, with her Senate File 4242, which now has become will be incorporated into our hospital provisions. I'm particularly thrilled about that because I'm a caregiver for a person with Alzheimer's disease, and Dr. Mann's bill covers nursing homes and assisted living facilities as well as hospitals. I'm not going to preach at you about the importance of not having federal agents lurking in the hallways and lobbies of hospitals and nursing homes to take the high proportion of doctors and nurses, particularly in greater Minnesota, but everywhere in our state. I will briefly share that as a psychologist and as a researcher, I can let you know that child development research, as well as common sense, tells us that in order to thrive, people need to feel safe, not scared, valued, not humiliated, competent, not helpless, and interconnected, not wary or angry or mistrustful of other people. Senators, your job is to make laws that promote individual thriving and social cohesion. All of us have been hurt by watching the humiliation, the loss of income, the jobs, the property, the abductions, and the physical violence. All of us, including those of us with Irish ancestors, have been harmed. And I want to speak particularly to the Republican members. Senate File 4176, the STAR Act, is grounded in values of safety, trust, accountability, and respect that all of us have always valued. It sets fair and reasonable standards for physical interactions and for data sharing
Excuse me,
between
ma'am.
federal
I'll let you
civil
finish
immigration.
your thought there, but your time's up.
Last sentence, thank you. And Minnesota's local law enforcement. So Senate File 4176 represents a step back towards predictability, fairness, and cohesive community of communities that all of us living in Minnesota deserve to expect and experience. If you really want to make Minnesota great again, you need to vote aye on this bill. Thank you.
Senator Fateh, do you have any additional thoughts before we go to member questions on the bill?
No, but I have a couple members that will help field questions.
Okay,
also.
certainly.
Thank you.
Members, questions or comments to the bill? Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Fateh, I'm still reading the amendment that you brought forward. It's clear that the design of this bill is to embed sanctuary state policies into our institutions in this state, including healthcare facilities and schools. I'm looking at the language on lines 8.7 and 4.29 and 5.19 and 5.10. Really, I just find the design of this bill very interesting. Not only the content and the goal of the bill, which is to officially make Minnesota a sanctuary state along with all of its institutions, but the design and the structure of the bill, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So for instance, on section 3 of the bill, which is on page 4, the bill claims to want to require healthcare facilities to develop policies in several different areas, and then goes on after it introduces those, like on 4.28 and 4.23, says develop these policies, but this is what your policy is going to be. And I really haven't seen it written like that before. Not to mention, as I mentioned, I'm very opposed to the bill and the notion of creating deeply within our institutions sanctuary state policies like this does. But I mean, it's almost like, why don't you just come out in the bill and say, your policy shall be this? Because that's essentially what you're saying there on 4.28 through 4.32 as an example. You're saying create a policy, and you need to have a policy, but it has to include this, and it has to say this. So why don't you just say that you're telling them this is what their policy has to be, because that's what you're doing repeatedly in several parts of the bill, and it's disguised as giving the facility freedom to develop their own policy, but you're essentially telling them in each of these areas that I've read the amendment so far, I'm almost to the end, each of them, you have told them what their policy is going to be. So let's not disguise it as a policy choice by the institution, but let's actually tell them, here's what your policy is going to be. Why don't we have the language say that? Because that's effectually what you do.
Senator Fateh.
Yeah, briefly, it just provides direction and clarification for what our healthcare facilities should be doing to provide adequate protection for the patients and their patients' rights. And that's the intent of this direction. But I've heard countless stories from community members and family members who've had their constitutional rights violated. And what I mean by that was there was one story that's in my mind of how there was an elderly lady that was transported to the hospital. Obviously, ICE was there with her, and she was in a coma. And when you're in a coma, you cannot make medical decisions on your own. You have to have family help you make those decisions. Unfortunately, the family, when they arrived, they checked in to find the name, and they were trespassed. They were told that this person is not here, you got to get out of here, they were trespassed. And then come to find out that ICE actually changed the patient's name so that they could not be located. And so, to me, that's a clear and blatant constitutional violation of that person's right, of the family's rights. But we want to make sure that we're protecting the data and the information, and that our hospitals have clear guidance on what to do and what not to do.
Senator Drazkowski, any follow-up questions?
No other questions, Mr. Chair. Members, please vote no. This is part of the Democrats' extreme agenda to make Minnesota a very deep sanctuary state that is designed to protect illegal aliens and keep law enforcement out of the ability to enforce the law, similar to what we saw here for the last 2 months, Mr. Chair. Very disheartening to see a bill like this. Thank you.
Members, any other questions or comments to the bill? Senator Maye Quade, then Senator Johnson-Stewart. Senator Maye Quade, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Fateh, for both asking me to sign on to this bill and for bringing your amendment. I don't want to stand in my own way for my own bills, but I want to speak to one specific piece just so I can highlight it. The right to a free public education. No child may be denied a free public education in Minnesota based on the child's actual or perceived immigration status or the actual or perceived immigration status of a child's parent or guardian. That is what is in this bill. That is what is. That is in the Minnesota Constitution. It is what the United States Supreme Court has affirmed. And so when I vote today, it is for the entire bill. It is a very, very good bill. What we have experienced here in Minnesota is horrific. It is generational trauma. Whether you are a person targeted, a family targeted, or just a member of a community. My 3-year-old daughter, we have talked about none of this with her because she wouldn't understand, has started creating scenarios about bad guys and acting out scenarios about bad guys because we were driving to swim lessons and watched someone be ripped from their car, the car left on the side of the road, kidnapped and disappeared away. How do you explain that to a 3-year-old? You can't. It wasn't an orderly stop. It wasn't people taking care of things afterwards. It was violent and horrific. It is unimaginable, the repair, but we have to start somewhere. And this is that start. And so thank you, Senator Fateh, because you've been carrying this long before We saw Operation Metro surge because the promises of a tyrant to mass deport 100 million people from this country, we all know what that ends up looking like in reality, and we saw it here in Minnesota. It was violent, it was unconstitutional, it was traumatizing, and it was deadly for many Minnesotans. So thank you for bringing this. Thank you for your work. Thank you to everybody who came to support or testify, who wrote a letter. I read them all. Every single letter. Thank you for your work. You are neighboring in the verb, and Minnesota will be better for it.
Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Fateh, for bringing this bill. I just wanted to add, I brought up the text string that I had from my friend who is a social worker in one of our major hospitals, just to get the details right of why we have to specify some of this policy, which is totally acceptable in my opinion, and I'm grateful that you included it. From my friend, the social worker, ICE is here. They are delaying medical care for 2 to 4 hours because they need to process paperwork while people lay bleeding and in need of significant care in the emergency room in a major hospital. ICE was there. In one case, ICE handcuffed himself, an ICE agent handcuffed himself to the leg of a patient and refused to let doctors and nurses tend to the patient until paperwork was processed. ICE pulled aside workers in the hospital who were of color or questionable immigration status to harass them. This was in one of our hospitals. And frankly, I'm sure it was in more than one of our hospitals. She would text me daily, say, when is the state gonna do something about this? And so there's so much in your bill that I could speak to, but I told her we are hearing this bill today, and I will tell some of her story. It is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous that this is happening in our public, it doesn't matter, in our hospitals in Minnesota. I also have a friend who I just texted, how's your immigration hearing going? Because he's been terrified. His children, and his wife died recently. His children have had to go shopping for him and keep their family running. He's terrified of when his immigration hearing is coming up because he's afraid, like many others, he's gonna be arrested at court. And I've told him, don't go without me. I will go and at least bear witness to your story. So again, the school part, the court part, the hospital part, it's absolutely abhorrent to me that we have to have a bill like this. I'm grateful for your advocacy. I too read every one of the letters, and they frankly just brought me to tears, but also made me so proud of what Minnesota is doing to step up for our citizen friends and our immigrant friends. We know that that our citizens have been abused, mistreated, detained. Just to go back to one thing and then I'll be done. To hear that a man was detained for 43 days, I don't think that's unusual. I think we know that that's happened, and there's people who are still in detainment. And to remember our conversation on the floor about people choosing not to work, well, I have to say it's hard to work when you're in the Whipple building or when you've been shipped off to who knows where. And it's also hard to work when you're afraid that if you get arrested or detained or murdered, your kids aren't going to have anybody to care for them. So thank you to everybody who showed up. I'm outraged. I'm glad to vote yes today. And I'm affirmed by your testimony, but I'm also just outraged that this is happening in Minnesota. So thank you, Senator Fateh.
Thank you, members of the committee, for the discussion. Regardless if you support or oppose this bill, I know legislation is hard, and it's hard for a purpose. We want to make and create the best laws, and there might be pieces in here that needs a little bit of work. But Senator Fateh, I'm with you with this bill. We will work on it. What happened this past interim has been shocking. What the national narrative driving this discussion, it's not the America I was taught. My grandfather, he was a secret war veteran. We know that. I speak about that all the time. When he fled, he didn't come on an airplane or anything. He was brought to the embassy by American officers, CIA officers, and they asked him one thing, why do you want to go to America? And he said, America is the biggest country on earth, the best country on earth. And I don't know, when people ask me, this bill is controversial, do I want to hear it? And I think I would not be doing him honor by not hearing this bill. And he is somebody that's protected or supposed to be protected. They invited him in here. And to hear some of the family members who have no legal paperwork to be here, I can't even imagine what your daily lives are. And, we saw in the news, ICE came and took a Hmong gentleman whose mother was a Hmong hero, a nurse, saved thousands of men, American pilots that were shot down. And her son was dragged in his underwear in the winter. And that to me is seeing my grandfather, the hero that I looked up to. My grandfather, when he was young, he was muscular, handsome, good looking. Even the Germans put a video clip of him in Longchang in his military uniform. And that generation was my heroes. And they taught me to love America. And so I hope that we can change the narrative on this. I hope we can love our neighbors. I hope we can offer a pathway to folks that are here that want to be good Americans and find a way to help tone down the temperature of the political discourse. I know the Republicans are passionate about this. Democrats are passionate about this. I don't doubt their love for America. But the way we are doing things, that's not helping America. And so I hope that the civil discussion we had here today will continue and that you, Senator Fateh, will continue to fight on for this bill. And maybe it might not be the right form right now, but I hope that we can work on this. And I leave it to you, Senator Fateh, to have the final word.
It's going to be tough to follow that, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your words and for providing us the space to have this legislation heard. And this is something that we've been working on for a few years now. I think we first drafted this back in 2023, a year in advance prior to the 2024 election, because we knew and the coalition had the foresight to see what was going to happen, what the devastation that can occur with having a president back in office that we've seen actively right now targeting, profiling individuals, tearing families apart. And so this is work that has been ongoing for the past few years. And what we've witnessed right now is the largest ICE operation in our nation's history, with billions of dollars invested in thousands of ICE agents that have been roaming the streets. We've heard countless stories from neighbors that we try to address within this legislation. For our E12, we heard stories about ICE agents going into our schools. And one school in Minneapolis in which students and staff were tear gassed and harmed by that. We heard from members in the hospitals, as Senator Johnson-Stewart was just talking about, that were targeted. We heard stories about ICE agents going into restaurants and closing the door behind them and saying, well, we're demanding paperwork from everyone before we let anyone out. They're not allowed to do that. That's a clear constitutional violation. That should not be happening. We heard stories, countless stories that I can go on and on about. But we've also suffered and witnessed the murder of 2 American citizens that occurred in the district that I represent. And that's Alex Preddy and Renee Good. And so I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chair, but my hope is that we find a pathway for this in both bodies because justice doesn't just look like ICE leaving our neighborhoods and our communities, it's accountability. And that's what we need to bring for us to achieve true justice. And so I'll leave it at that, and thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Seeing no further discussion, Senator Drazkowski. A roll call being requested, a roll call will be given. Senator Fateh moves that Senate File 4176 as amended is recommended to pass and referred to judiciary, and staff will take the roll call.
Chair Zhang?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gustafson, excused. Vice Chair Maye Quade.
Yes.
Lead Lang. Lead Lang excused. Senator Barr.
No.
Senator Zwadzinski.
Yep.
Senator Drazkowski.
No.
Senator Fateh.
Yes.
Senator Hemmingson Yeager.
Yes.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Yes.
Senator Corian.
No.
Senator Matthews. No. Mr. Chair, there are 6 ayes, 4 noes, and 2 excused.
There being 6 ayes, 4 noes, and 2 excused, the motion prevails. Senate File 41. Members of the audience, a reminder that we hope to have the quorum in the Senate. The Senate File 4176, as amended, passed and referred to judiciary. Next up, we have Senate File 4296, Senator Maye Quade. And to the members of the public, as you're making your way out, please be mindful. The committee hearing is still continuing, and we still want to hear our next bills and testifiers. And Senator Maye Quade, whenever you're ready, you may begin. And I think you have an A2 amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have the A2 amendment, yes.
Senator Maye Quade moves the A2 amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The A2 amendment is adopted. Senator Maye Quade, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I love to clear out a room. Okay. Members, thank you for hearing Senate File 4296. So I'm just going to give you a little background. On December 19th, 2022, the City of Rosemount Planning Commission held their monthly public meeting. At 7:44 p.m., the public hearing was open to talk about proposed projects. While the commissioners had extensive questions for a specific project team about landscaping, setbacks, the size of buildings, the architecture, the end user of the proposed project, the representative from the project team said, and I'm going to quote from the official meeting minutes, "She cannot disclose who the technology campus will serve as the applicant is confidential, but that the, quote again, proposed project is very extensive in terms of acreage, time, and money. This proposed project, the size, the purpose, the user, the number of buildings, the landscaping, what it would look like, was a secret. And the public hearing to approve this master development plan of secret, extensive acreage, time, and money lasted for exactly 6 minutes. This proposed project was given a code name, Project Bigfoot. In July of 2022, Rosemount City officials had signed an NDA that included complete secrecy over the existence of the NDA, the fact or nature of the discussion between parties, the entity or company behind the project, or even the existence of the project itself. It was only after the project was approved by Rosemount City Council and announced to the public that Project Bigfoot was revealed to be a 715,000 square foot, $800 million data center for Meta, one of the most harmful tech companies that exists. While the Meta data center located in Rosemount is not in my district, most of the residents of the city of Rosemount, so the people who will live nearest to this data center, are my constituents. I'm the first senator who was impacted by the utilization of NDAs in data center development. Residents of Rosemount did not have the opportunity to go in front of their city council and say, please don't do this, or please do this, or why are you doing this, or who is the company? There were many planning commissioners and city council members, in fact, Mr. Chair, who didn't even know what they were approving as it moved through. One city council member in March of 2023 asked whether it was unusual to approve a specific project without knowing what it was. So the bill before you today is a result of an amendment that I brought to this committee and to the floor last year that would prohibit the use of NDAs for data center development. And when I brought this amendment forward last year, I warned all of you that when data centers come to your community, because they will come to your community, you won't know. In Rosemount, we had Project Bigfoot, but in Hermantown, it's Project Loon. In North Mankato, it's Project Deacon. And in Farmington, it's Project Bengal. The bill before the committee today will require municipalities to hold at least 2 public hearings prior to the approval of data center construction. At least 48 hours before the first public hearing, the municipality must disclose the name of the petitioner or applicant, the name of the end user of the proposed data center, the location and size of the proposed data center, whether the data center is located within or abuts an area zoned for residential use, the estimated number of security guards employed to protect the data center site during and after construction, and whether they will be armed with a firearm or with a weapon, and the estimated scope of utilities necessary for operation of the proposed data center, including but not limited to fuel lines, sewer, stormwater, and electricity. I know, Mr. Chair, that there are many different opinions and views on data centers in the Senate, and that is okay. This bill is not about how we feel about data centers. It's about government transparency. Minnesotans have a right to know what their elected officials are doing, and this is a problem we need to fix this year. We cannot let code names, aliases, and NDAs become the norm in Minnesota. We must have public transparency and public input, and so I hope I can get your support for this bill, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Senator Maye Quade. And I think you have a few remote testifiers. We'll start off first with Aubrey Durkinson, who will be joining us remotely. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin with your testimony.
My name is Aubrey Dirksen. I live in Pine Island, Minnesota, where Project Skyway, a 3 million square foot data center proposal, is within a mile of my home. I'm here today to support SF 4296 and full disclosures of data centers because I know what it is to be kept in the dark. Being a resident, desperately fighting to be heard, even in a small town of fewer than 4,000 people, but finding that the democratic process where my voice is supposed to matter has been hijacked by big tech. Residents just found out about a data center in September of 2025 and only got 4 months until final project approvals in January of 2026 were given. The city and the developer, however, got over 2 years facilitated by NDAs, with Google just being announced as the end user a few weeks ago on February 24th. One of the several recommendations that I make, please see my written testimony as well, is that the security disclosures must include the digital security presence, such as drones and security cameras, and contain provisions that forbid certain kinds of flock cameras. AI surveillance is a weapon still and just as dangerous as firearms. It is not a hypothetical scenario either. Ring cameras AI technology has raised significant privacy concerns with their neighborhood surveillance network and law enforcement access to it. Flock cameras create permanent searchable records of everyone's movements that come within range, facing ACLU complaints. This is an AI data center going up the street from my home, sitting right off of Highway 52, the only major thoroughfare between Rochester and the metro. Drones get the bird's eye view that street level options miss. Recently, on February 26th, Google employees publicly urged Google to oppose the Pentagon's request to use AI for mass surveillance of Americans. Google itself, however, has not made such a commitment. What is Google planning to install up the street from my house under the guise of data center security?
Thank you to our testifier. Next up, we have Eleanor Dolan. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Hi, my name is Eleanor Dolan. I live in Duluth, about 7 miles from the proposed Hermantown data center site, and I am here to speak on the need to notify the public, inform the public about project specifics, and hold public meetings when it comes to these data center projects. I first found out about the Hermantown data center from a news article, like many folks. When I learned about it, we as a community had 10 days before the city planned to vote to rezone the land for the data center. The city failed to inform us, to answer our questions, and to do their due diligence when it came to transparency around this project. So my first instinct was that the community needed to know about it, and they needed to be informed about what this meant. I had loosely followed data center developments around the country, and I had heard many stories of residents who were severely impacted by the sound and light pollution, decreased water supply, and raised electricity bills. Yet this was not the information the city was providing. Rather, many city officials refused to even acknowledge if the land was if the land was rezoned, it would be for a data center development. So I and other community members decided that if the city was not going to take action to inform the community, we would. In a span of 6 days, we knocked on almost 400 doors in Hermantown near the project site. We used no list or database of known allies. We simply hit every possible door we could. The majority of folks we talked to had not even heard of this project, or they had seen one headline and had no concept of the scale of this development. During those first few days, less than 5 of the people we spoke to were in favor of this development. During our door knocking, we also saw firsthand how the use of non-disclosure agreements and lack of public meeting and process eroded public trust in the city. We were told by people when we told people why we were at their door and that their local government had hidden this information from them, we were routinely met with outrage. Neighbors expressed to us that they felt betrayed and believed their city government was corrupt. Many shared that they believed that under-the-table deals were being made by their city officials and that city staff and elected officials were being bought and sold by corporate interests. When citizens feel unrepresented and do not trust their government, that is not a healthy democracy. I urge you all to vote in favor of SF 4296 as it is an essential step to preserving our democracy and rebuilding public trust. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Joanne Bates. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin with your testimony. Sorry, I think you might be muted, Mrs. Bates. Oh, Ms. Bates, I think you are muted. Oh, there you go.
I am unmuted.
Okay, thank you. You may begin with your testimony.
Sorry about that. Senator McQuaid, committee chair, committee members, my name is Joanne Bates, and I'm here today in half about myself and the Herman community I live in. I am supporting the bills SF 4296 and SF 4379. Members of this esteemed legislature and members of my own city council tell me not to worry about hyperscale data centers because Minnesota has good laws to protect us. But the immense size of these new data centers, the way their operations are beyond what most of us can imagine, and the new ways they find to walk on the edge or outside the rules mean we are still experiencing the innovative ways they damage our environment and steal our money. It was September 2025 when I first heard of a hyperscale data center coming to a location 2.5 miles from my home. I knew very little, say no information about data centers, and found very little information. So my husband and I did some door knocking in the affected area to gather information. At the first place we stopped, we saw a beautiful, majestic log home and spoke with a woman there who told us they had recently sold their home and were not at liberty to share any details. It appeared they did not have a lot of details themselves. She said she told her husband, "We'd better accept their offering and get out of here." As we stood on her stoop talking, her husband was just coming in with a tree in his tractor bucket that he was going to transplant. It appeared he was struggling to give up his long-term habit of improving their land. Their yard was covered with precious, large, antique equipment. She told us their agreement gave them help with moving these items. It seemed like she was already feeling alienated from her community. The visit that we made that day left us more confused. We did not learn much either at the October 6th Hermantown City Council meeting, which drew well over 100 people. Since then, I have attended most of the Hermantown City Council meetings and read countless information pages about data centers. Now, instead of the likelihood that my property value will increase over time, I face the likelihood that it will decrease. I ask you to approve SF 4296 and SF 4379 so that no other communities suffer from a lack of information like I did, and like has disrupted my world and taken over much of my spare time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And next up, we have Margaret Sullivan. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for considering bills SF 4379 and 4296 today, and my opportunity to testify. My name is Margaret Sullivan. I live in North Minneapolis, and I volunteer with Sierra Club and Indivisible around hyperscale data centers. I'm concerned about them because of how they can affect our health, environment, energy grids, residential property values, and water tables, as they would touch so many aspects of our lives and could have unintended consequences not easily reversed. I'm also concerned about the pace of proposals coming at our state. I do want a moratorium on permitting for time to set appropriate guidelines for this industry. I don't think we should wing this. It's too important. But without real state oversight, cities have so far been forced to wing it because most don't have resources to conduct statewide impact assessments. Decisions often come down to industrial property tax revenue for a particular jurisdiction, with all chances for a richer decision passed up. Some of us also see how unprepared city councils are to make decisions of statewide consequence in their signing of non-disclosure agreements with land brokers, developers, and proposers. Serious problems with this include NDAs ignore Minnesota's open government principles, including the Government Data Practices Act, which makes all government data public unless specifically protected. NDAs breed mistrust in government. An NDA signer is alone when they most need others to think out loud with about their position on a data center proposal. An NDA signer is doubly vulnerable to lawsuit from those whose conversations they're protecting and from constituents. And NDAs silo decisions of statewide consequence within cities. So I do think NDAs in the public sector should be banned, and I urge you to vote yes on bills SF 4296 and 4379. Now, in case bill changes are still possible, I have a couple of brief questions / suggestions. For 4379, addresses municipal NDAs, but if the state does eventually take a stronger hand in decision-making with data centers, should language be added to include state-level NDAs? With 4296, the term co-location is not mentioned. Co-location is the renting of data center space to different quote-unquote end users, a term that's used in the bill right now, but those that are different from the property owner. Now that may not be important to 4296, but it might. And if this hasn't been considered, it might be worth thinking about whether co-location should be addressed. If 4379's stated definition of municipality includes a contractor whose identity jumps back and forth from private individual to government rep all day long, great. But if not, it might be worth considering addressing that role. And then finally, please also consider a provision in 4379 for when a jurisdiction starts making decisions around a related data center project and needs info that is cloaked by private party NDA. If, for example, between a land broker and a data center proposer, if municipal NDAs are banned and this scenario is not also faced, private party NDAs may be used to cloak facts from residents despite municipalities not signing NDAs. So again, I urge you to vote yes on both SF 4296 and 4379. Thank you so much for your work on this and your time. Thank you.
Thank you, and then I think we have one more testifier that's here, Jenna Van Den Boom. If not, she's making her way up. And as she's making her way up, Senator Maye Quade, I think we did not move the 8-2 amendment yet, or did? We did. We did.
Yes.
Hold on. Hello, welcome to the State and Local Government Committee. You may please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair and committee members, for allowing me time to testify today. My name is Jenna Van Den Boom, and I'm from Monticello, Minnesota. I'm here on behalf of the Stop the Monticello Data Centers Group. We have 1,100 members, and it grows every day. Monticello is a community of approximately 16,000 residents, and we're located roughly halfway between Minneapolis and St. Cloud on Interstate 94 and the Mississippi River. I am here testifying in support of SF 4379 and SF 4296 Maye Quade. There are two proposed hyperscale data center sites for Monticello, one of which is a 3 million square foot hyperscale data center located on 550 acres of what's currently mainly farmland. This bill is very important to me as we did not find out about the potential for a hyperscale data center until the city had already been working on the process for over a year. Only 150 residences were notified as they were within the 350-foot requirement for notification, meaning that the hundreds of houses in the development that I live, located adjacent to where the hyperscale data center will be built, if approved, were not notified. With something as dramatic as a data center that will literally impact every aspect of the city of Monticello, we deserve to be part of the whole process. We have a lot invested in the city of Monticello, as do many of the residents that live there. Only alerting people who live within 350 feet is unjustifiable. In addition, when we did find out about one of the hyperscale data centers being proposed, we were told that no NDAs were signed by the city. The developer, however, had signed NDAs with 3 potential end users. The variability between the 3 potential end users while having an NDA between the developer and the end users has created the impossible task of creating an ordinance that will satisfy all potential scenarios. This has left us with an ordinance full of gaps and uncertainties, and an AUR full of gaps and uncertainties as well. And the city is currently intent on signing in the coming weeks. The trust eroded during this process has significantly impacted the city of Monticello. Hyperscale data center development projects should be completed with full transparency and the potential for full public engagement. I understand the concept of wanting cities to maintain the autonomy to act independent of stringent government oversight. But with that being said, we have cities from all over the state represented, and the decisions made here pose significant ramifications for all of Minnesotans. It's important to note that if left in city government hands alone, when all these hyperscale data centers get approved, the scale of ramifications will be felt not just across our state, but throughout the entire country. Continuing to leave these decisions in the hand of individual cities without the guardrails necessary for guidance is irresponsible and has had a significant impact on our current situation. That's why I'm asking for your support in supporting Senate File 4379 and 4296.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions or comments to the bill? Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Maye Quade. I will just be really brief in the interest of time. I am certainly not against data centers, but I am certainly against NDAs in terms of, I have to say, Ms. Sullivan had so many good points, but in terms of acing out any public involvement, we have designed the public involvement and comment process for large-scale projects specifically and honestly to get good input, to make a project successful, to get the best community result that we can, and we can't get that with the NDA. I also am very much in favor of this bill just from an engineering perspective. You know, as a licensed engineer, my first duty is to the public, and anything that stands in the way of me serving the public, whether it's because of an NDA signed by an agency or a government official or a contractor that I'm working for, that's just really crippling for me as a licensed engineer. So I'm so proud to be on this bill, and I'm proud of the work you're doing, and I encourage everybody, regardless of your party affiliation, to vote for this because data centers are coming everywhere, and they don't care if you're blue or red. Thank you, Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Senator Curran, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Maye Quade, I heard the testimony and been in that position myself in power plant developments, solar plant developments, and those alike. Being very prescriptive in this environment, I think that's one size fits all. The goal would be more transparency, but in each and every one of these situations are private businesses, and today it's data centers, right? We didn't talk about this for power plants, solar gardens, and big, large solar farms. They all had the same issue, and it's about local municipal government and the transparency. Believe me, I was on the front lines fighting all of it. It's probably why I'm here. But I still didn't go out and change the state law to fight for it. We went and held every single elected official accountable if they didn't provide the transparency. But in a commercial world, because this isn't just about a data center, it's a convergence of the environmentalists and in every way, shape, and form, those that don't want more power and the fear of tech, and there's legitimate issues in all of them, but there's a need and a necessity for our country to be competitive, so they're necessary. How do we go out and build and permit those? I get the experience and the impact. We gotta do all those things, but we're never going to get legislation that is going to be effective that will keep Minnesota safe, water clean, energy impact on our grid by a one-size-fits-all or an attack on a business because we don't like it today. And I just don't see how we'll be able to do it better. When you think about commercial development, where they choose to place those things, we had one up in North Branch, a large commercial development, that there's a need for some type of privacy, and even on the land acquisition side, there's competitive market, stock price, all of those things, all the market positions all come into play on a company. If somebody's going to move a company, or move their headquarters, if that gets out to the employees, the abandonment of the existing company, even though it's just an exploratory type activity, I don't see that, again, that we should be mandating everything so prescriptive because we'll never get the total picture forced upon every municipal government that's going to end up going out and permitting these activities. Yeah, they have to. I know what it's like when the municipalities have to go out and hire expertise. They exist. But it's those that are the people that were elected. If they're upset, the real correction to every single one of these things is always going to be the election. And I still think that's the only really effective way to make these things work and to get better effective leadership within every community. We're not going to be able to govern that. It won't make them better. And so whether they have a true NDA in place or they just have to have some agreement that privacy exists, those things are going to happen. And so for us to be very prescriptive and heavy-handed that we're the state and we should tell them, we've granted them powers. I get that. And I think we're combining testimony on both of the bills since it covers NDAs. And I think the NDA piece of it is the same. I'm not a big fan of them from the perspective of an elected leader maybe in a city council or something like that. But certainly those that are in the economic development and just in exploratory side, there's a need for privacy for all sorts of things. The NDA kind of, I think it's global, bans it entirely because of this goal for utmost transparency. But there's a need for privacy on all those other private sector businesses that are not highly regulated and from a PUC, but to go out and the exploratory, Quick Trip, McDonald's, all of those, they need some type of privacy on the initial phases. And again, if things are happening in the community that are outside of the will of the people, it's not the state's job to fix their election problem. So for that reason, I'm against both of the bills as long as we're combining testimonies. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Henderson Yeager and Senator Matthews are after that.
Hopefully this is just a simple, straightforward question. So I'm still learning kind of about the development process in my city. This feels like it's a way to kind of circumvent that process. Is that kind of your feeling or understanding as well?
Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Senator Henderson-Yeager. It's not actually. Senate File 4296 actually just says before the city takes steps to change zoning or issue a conditional use or special use permit for the construction of a data center, that there's basic information that has to be available to the public. So it's not, did we go and listen to a presentation from Google who wants to build a data center somewhere in the Midwest? It's we are changing the city's zoning laws to construct a secret, we don't know what, that's actually not okay. And so this says once the city is starting to make moves to change how your city is zoned or what is permitted in your city, then you have to inform the public of just some basic information. So it's not going around the development process, just saying at the point at which there's public input, there has to be some public information.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Senator Henderson Yeager. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this discussion. I agree that with Senator Coran that I think the most effective way is to hold your local officials accountable for the decisions that they're making. And this is another example of trying to apply an issue that one community had, Rosemount being the example here, and the answer being applied just broadly and generally all over. And I need to remind people on this committee again, I shared it in a energy committee, when this issue came up, unfortunately, members in this body have started incentivizing this behavior. We all want transparency. I think some of the goals that are here are good goals. They should be things that some of the city councils and such are doing anyways. But I need to remind you again of such as my community in Becker, which for quite a few years is trying to deal with the aftermath of an approximately 65% drop off in the city revenues because of the retirements of the Sherco energy plant. And time after time, the city has come forward with proposals of what they can plug in and build and start to meet some of that gap. And time again, people that sit from cushy chairs and air-conditioned offices here in St. Paul reach out to my community and say no and shut them down. My community last year was going to be an example of a city that was trying to do the right thing, because they did come out pretty early on in the process and let the citizens know what was going on and who was involved. And I know there were some agreements they had to work out in the early phase, but the city still came out early and said, here's a project, here's what it is, here's a regulatory piece that we need changed at the legislature to try to accomplish that. And I worked on that last year. That was one of the first data center bills that got introduced last year. And some members, even some that are in this room, made some of the most outlandish and wild accusations against my community and against the proposed project in my district that completely took everything off the rails and shut down the project that my community is trying to build to meet the drop-off from state law and state policy changes to begin with. And so you wonder why a lot of other communities come up and try to keep things hidden under NDAs for longer periods of time. It's because of bad faith behavior like Becker experienced last year. And now my district is facing the double whammy of we don't have those things built out that can help fill in the backfill of the drop off to the city's revenues. But the land is now just sitting in private ownership and no one else can build anything else there either. And so this one-size-fits-all answer, just what works in one area is not going to work in another area. And it's just astounding that the way that one community gets treated is far different from the way another community is getting treated here. And so I in this first bill, since we're kind of merging the discussion of these two bills together, I think in the first bill, I like some of the concepts. There are things that city councils should be doing anyway without having to have it prescribed to them in law. And then I'm not out here defending the practice of NDAs. I'm just explaining why the behavior of some Democrats here in the legislature has led to the place that we are today. And I think some more good faith efforts and some more transparency would help encourage communities to step up and do the right thing rather than getting them shut down. And some of this just has absolutely no bearing to how actually business works, and especially the second bill reads like it's just trying an effort to get data centers out of this state and have other states get the revenue and the construction jobs and all of that going on. So I want to urge this body to take a step back and take a long and hard look at how we're treating different communities and some of the needs that they are having. And these one-size-fits-all answers right now in these bills are not the way that we're going to go about it right now. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Maye Quade, for bringing these bills. We are kind of merging the discussion together. Did the amendment we had on the floor last year tied, right? It was a tie vote. This is an issue, members, that's going to have bipartisan support and bipartisan opposition. And there are a number of issues like that. Thank you for your bills, Senator Maye Quade. I have just some constructive criticism on the first one, and then I just want to talk generally about NDAs, and then you won't have to hear from me again. On line 2.8 and 2.9, you've got language there about disclosing whether the security guard has a firearm or not. I think that's, I understand, given your outlook on firearms, maybe why that might be in there. I don't think it's helpful to the bill. You know, I really view it as the greatest oxymoron in the world is unarmed guard. But if that might be something you could remove. And I looked at the definition that it refers to, and there's some uncertainty around there. It says, so armed with a weapon means a weapon other than a firearm. Okay, is that a car? Is that a stick? Is that a pocket knife? Who knows? And an immobilizing or restraining device. So anyway, I'd urge you to consider removing that part. And then on 2.15 and 2.16, I think we want more clarity, or more, either take out the last part that says or making the same information available for inspection at a reasonable time and place. That's just really willy-nilly. There's not a lot of certainty, clarity for the municipality to follow there. They could choose to put it anywhere and say that it's reasonable place at a reasonable time. Anyway, those are my two suggestions on there. Then on just generally, members, and I disagree with some of my Republican colleagues and probably some of my Democrat colleagues on this issue, but we in Minnesota and the Minnesota culture, having been here a while, knows that we very strongly support and endorse disclosure from government. We've got open meeting laws that we have and we enforce vigorously. We've got Chapter 13, which requires units of government, including local governments, to disclose to the public what they're doing, and very deliberate, as you all know, and a very big thing for people in our culture, in our state. I am not an opponent or a supporter of data centers. I just view it as this is something that the market is needing, it's coming, and I've got 2 proposed data centers in my district, and one of them for sure, people have signed NDAs, I've talked to them, and some of them are actually wishing that we actually had this type of guidance in law, and it would have made it much clearer, because they might be actually having second thoughts about whether they should have or not. But regardless of that, you know, democracy is dying in the dark in these communities. It really is. I learned about one of these data centers in one of my communities the day before they dropped the press release. The guy from XL Energy came into my office and said, it's going to be Google and it's going to be us. And that's how I learned about it. And my constituents all learned about it the next day, whether they lived 40 miles or 40 paces from the proposed data center. So I really struggle with the notion, and I think, members, I wasn't aware until this issue came forward last year, till we heard about Farmington. I wasn't aware, I never really contemplated, do we have NDA requirements in law for local units of government? Can they do it? There was never really a reason to do it, but that issue, I think, brought it to light. And so now we realize, well, you know, we are the entity, state government, that we create. Local government are creatures of the state government. That's how our government is designed here. We give them the duties, responsibilities, limitations, and boundaries in which to operate, and that's our job here to do. And so we are doing that. These bills address that. Senator Maye Quade, again, thank you for bringing them. I strongly support the notion and the area we're going with these bills. I've talked to other members of this committee and other members generally, and Senator Coran, I think your comments might be well taken. Maybe we need to look at and not preclude the ability maybe of some opportunities for communities and our state generally to entertain some of these developments. And we need to figure out how to do that while also giving the direction that maybe the city councilors shouldn't be signing NDAs. Maybe we should have it, you know, have it so the elected people cannot. And this Senator Barr really brought this to light for me. And maybe there needs to be the ability of staff to do it on a limited basis early on in communication with those development opportunities, and then cut off somehow. Those are my thoughts around it. Thank you again, Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, Senator Drazkowski, I'm very amenable to deleting that last part of 2.15 and 2.16. And I know we might have different views on firearms, but that actually on 2.6 to 2.9 is actually not a shot at firearms. A Cato Institute report, white paper from last year or the year before, because of the AI arms race and the potential implications, and we're just seeing that right now for data centers to be part of national security conversations, the recommendations is that they treat data centers like military bases. And so one of the things that I wanted to get at here is that if that is the future of data center construction, is that it's more locked down, and that's why weapon is in here outside of firearm, where maybe you have machine guns on top of buildings, or you have like fencing and razor wire and diverting traffic. I really wanted that to be clear to the public as they're considering this, because I think we're probably not that far away from it. So it's not a shot at guns, but more, some data centers are not near homes and some are right between developments. And I think what that construction will look like, even just from a security perspective, is probably important to residents. So that's why that language is in there. It is not a shot at firearms, I promise you. And then,
Senator Maye Quade.
yeah, and then, Mr. Chair, I think to your last point, Senator Drazkowski, and to your earlier point, Senator Coran, like, this isn't prohibiting development opportunities from being explored. What this says is that at the point at which you're changing things in your city, so you're changing your zoning, you're changing a conditional use permit, the point at which we have said the public gets to have input, right? So this is at the Planning Commission meeting, this is at the City Council meeting, right? Imagine if we came forward with Senate File 1, it's a secret, right? And then we just called it Senate File 1 and we didn't tell people what it did, and then we passed it and appropriated money. That would be kind of crazy. And that's essentially what's happening in these city council meetings. Some of the city council members don't even know. So this is not to cut off development opportunities or seeking information. It's really just at the point at which it starts to impact votes, it starts to impact official actions, you have to have a basic level of understanding of what is happening when they take those votes.
All right, and with that, Senator Johnson Stewart moves for a roll call for the motion. Did you move the bill to judiciary? Is that where you wanted it to go?
I think, Mr. Chair, this one was general orders, yes.
Senator Maye Quade moves that Senate File 4296 as amended to be recommended to pass and refer to judiciary, to general orders. All those in favor say aye. I'm sorry, Senator Johnson Stewart asked for a roll call. A roll call being requested, a roll call will be given. And with that, staff will take the roll call.
Chair Zhang?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gustafson excused. Vice Chair Maye Quade?
Yes.
Lead Lang? Lead Lang excused. Senator Barr? Aye. Senator Swedzinski?
Yes.
Senator Drazkowski?
Aye.
Senator Fateh?
Yes.
Senator Hemmingson Yeager?
Yes.
Senator Johnson Stewart?
Yes.
Senator Coran?
No.
Senator Matthews? Mr. Chair, there are 8 ayes and 2 nays.
There being 8 ayes and 2 nays, the motion passes, and Senate File 4296 will be sent to general orders. Members, and we have to be out of this room at 3. If we've kind of mended the discussion for this bill with the previous bill. Senator Maye Quade, if you're ready, we can go with the next.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Coran.
I think we have a couple of brief questions specific to the NDA if we have
Certainly,
time.
certainly.
So, Mr. Chair, Senator Maye Quade, so on the NDA and the prohibition for municipalities from using NDAs, we currently, state agencies are allowed to use NDAs as well as deed. So how do we reconcile that? I don't think, again, I don't want to see, the reason they have those is for much larger developments, the equivalent in scale that they're managing on the state level for investments and people seeking exploratory options to build and grow businesses in Minnesota, just as our municipalities will have that need. And so it will look very hypocritical, but yet I'm not proposing that we remove the ability from the state agencies either. So I think that privacy needs to exist at many levels, and we need to make sure we elect great people and hire good administrators. Thank you.
Yep, and Senator Maye Quade to Senate File 4379, I think there's a testifier that would like to testify on that bill. Would it be okay with you? We asked them to come
Yes,
down
can I
and
move the A1 amendment?
Yes. Senator Maye Quade moves the A1 amendment as amended by the A2, is that correct?
The A1 amendment. It's a technical amendment, but it just applies to agreements entered into, renewed, or extended on or after the date of enactment of the bill, so it's not retroactive.
For members, it's being passed out right now.
Great.
Senator Maye Quade.
That is it. It's a technical amendment. I have a more substantive amendment that I had hoped that the committee would actually have time to talk about and vote on. I didn't want to offer it as an author's amendment because it kind of, it changes the bill a little bit. So, well, let's do the A1. It's technical.
Senator Maye Quade moves the A1 amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The A1 amendment is adopted. Senator Maye Quade.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we have one testifier, we could probably go to the testifier and then we can do our.
Mr. Jonathan Cotter, if you would like to testify, please state your name for the record whenever you are ready, and you may proceed.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, my name is Jonathan Cotter, Director of Healthcare and Commerce Policy with the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, representing more than 6,300 businesses of all sizes and industries across Minnesota. At the start, we are still analyzing the previous bill and seeking feedback from our members, but the Chamber shares the goal of transparency in government. Businesses and communities both benefit from accountable, open decision making. However, we are concerned that Senate File 4379 takes a blunt approach that could unintentionally undermine economic development efforts across the state. In practice, non-disclosure agreements are a common tool used during early stages of project development discussions. Companies considering expansion, relocation, or major investment often need to share sensitive information about their business operations, financial projections, and competitive strategy. If businesses cannot rely on some level of confidentiality during those early conversations, economic development opportunities will be impacted. These agreements also play a practical role in development itself. Many projects require assembling multiple parcels of land. If the identity of a developer or scale of a project becomes public before that process is complete, the negotiation process can become more complicated and project costs can increase. In some cases, projects may even fall apart before they ever reach the public stage. Economic development projects are highly competitive. Companies evaluating where to expand or invest often consider multiple states and communities at the same time. If Minnesota removes a tool that nearly every other state allows during early negotiations, we risk signaling that our communities are harder places to do business and pushing those investments, jobs, and tax-based growth somewhere else. For those reasons, we believe this bill goes further than necessary to address transparency concerns and risks undermining legitimate economic development negotiations. There may be ways to improve public visibility into these projects without removing a tool communities rely on to compete for investments and jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's another testifier. Would you like to state your name for the record? And you may begin. And I remind you, we will be kicked out here at 3. So please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Peter Wagenius, Legislative Director at Sierra Club. Thank you to Senator Maye Quade for offering this bill and to Senator Drazkowski for his comments. Why is big tech so eager to locate hyperscale data centers in Minnesota? The first reason is obviously the subsidies the state provides from Minnesota taxpayers. But another likely reason is that this bill is not already law. Being able to negotiate in secret is an increasing benefit to big tech as the public becomes more aware of the risks posed by hyperscalers, as evidenced by the brand new poll showing that 74% of Hermantown opposes that project. It turns out citizens expect full transparency before their city council votes, not just before they vote for city council. Our coalition identified risks from data centers, including air pollution, water depletion, water pollution, not to mention risks to our state budget and our electric bills. In other states, big tech has been very skillful at passing their high costs onto the rest of us through higher electric bills. Preventing the public from knowing how big tech is addressing these risks makes all of them worse, damaging trust in government in the process. If big tech owners are willing to use their financial resources to address all of these concerns, they shouldn't be so scared of transparency. Let me conclude with a few numbers. The 2020 populations of Farmington, Hermantown, and Pine Island were 23,000, 10,000, and 3,769. The 2024 profits for Meta, Google, and Microsoft were $62 billion, $88 billion, and $100 billion. The moral of the David and Goliath story is not that Goliath needed some extra help from his local state legislature. We should stop shielding big tech from transparency. The richest companies in human history should not need non-disclosure agreements to hide behind. Please ban NDAs and support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Or sorry, Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since we are at the bewitching hour here, I would like to lay this on the table. All of the public testimony has been heard, so we could have robust committee discussion before we pass this out. I'd like to move this to table this bill, SF 4379, for future discussion.
Senator Maye Quade, this is your bill.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if I can debate that motion.
All those in favor of laying the bill over, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no.
On the table.
On the table, laying this bill on the table. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The bill is laid over for future discussion. Thank you. And members, as a reminder, we will be meeting this Friday, March 20th at 11 a.m. This committee is adjourned.